Okay. Recording in progress.
Oh, you hear that as well?
Yeah, that's the American accent.
Well, okay. Welcome to the sixth of our journeys down the Old Shoreham Road to Enlightenment, the world's most open-minded podcast. With me today is Norman Baker. He's a former member of Parliament and for the Liberal Democrats here in Sussex, and the author of one of my favourite books in recent years about his experience with the royal family and the Privy Council, entitled "And What Do You Do?" And you have to, I think, say it in that accent. Norman, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, life's very busy.
Okay, well, I will cut out the whole bit of me reading my Goodreads review then.
Okay.
And I will put a link to it in the description because it does take up a lot of time because I really liked it. I wrote a lot, and yeah. So we're going to talk about what do you do, and which is this. It's now in paperback, so you don't have to have this big heavy book. Could you explain to us, everyone, the role within the Parliament you held and the Privy Council?
I was elected to represent Lewes, a lovely town in, lovely area, in 1997, having been district council leader before that, was MP for 18 years. I undertook a number of shadow roles for my party between 1997 and 2010, covering a wide range of topics from culture, media and sport to environment to transport, and great fun shadowing the Millennium Dome, which was a big white elephant and an opening goal every week to score against Mr. Mandelson and his crew. And then from 2010 to 2015, or 2014 actually, November 2014, I was a minister, 3.5 years at the Department for Transport, and just over a year at the Home Office as a crime prevention minister. And the Privy Council thing came in 2013, 2014, when I was inducted, so word, I think, into the Privy Council. I was asked to go along, I think originally 3 months early, and I said I couldn't go because I had a parish council meeting to go to, but then I went subsequently and got inducted in a pretty peculiar ceremony at Buckingham Palace.
Okay, so the main thing that I want to talk about is obviously the biggest royal news at the moment. The Grand Old Duke of York. How fucked is he? Seriously.
Well, I mean, we'll see. But I mean, what he's been trying to do, obviously, is hide himself away and not have paper served on him, which has been a failed strategy. All it's done is annoy the U.S. judge, who's following the civil case that's been started by Victoria Roberts, and Andrew, I'm afraid, has over the years demonstrated a sense of arrogance, a sense of entitlement, and a belief he can do anything and get away with it. And I think that's the chickens are coming home to roost, to use a cliche. And I don't think he can escape this one. I mean, there's quite clearly the determination on the US side to pursue matters through the civil case. There's also, of course, potential criminal action regarding episodes related to Jeffrey Epstein still being pursued as well as a separate track. And I'm afraid he's bang in the middle of it. And his explanations to date for his actions, for many people, lack a great deal of credibility.
And you've got a whole chapter about Prince Andrew. I mean, he comes off as like a massive prick, doesn't he?
Well, yeah, I think that was close to the word that was used by the Australians when he refused to behave as every other passenger did when he touched down in Australia, and they said, well, "You're not coming through until you behave like everybody else." So yes, I think that was actually the word used by Australian immigrant behaviour over the years. There's the episode called amusingly called Gate, which is when he was getting to his house in Windsor Great Park, or our house really, but he calls it his house. And the gates wouldn't open properly. So rather than take a diversion of about 2 or 3 miles, which is what everybody else would have done, in his big 4x4, he just simply smashed the gates down by repeatedly hitting them with his vehicle. It cost £80,000 of damage, and that's been picked up by the taxpayer. So, I mean, I think that sort of behaviour is just pretty terrible, really, and so a complete sense of arrogance that I think people just find pretty distasteful. So I think, as I say, the trouble with the royal family is they feel they can do what they want to get away with it, and they generally do get away with it. And whether that's in terms of asking for special privileges, getting tax breaks, exemption from freedom of information, whatever, they generally get their way. So that's a mindset they've grown up with. But I think Andrew has taken it to new extremes, and as I say, the chickens are coming home to roost.
We'll read one little bit that I wrote. That your book is a study and a deep dive into things like etiquette and protocol, and what the hell is up with all the titles, awards, and why is there such a thing as an official barge master or a sculptor and someone to look after all the swans on the ever-sensitive and monstrous payroll, the same payroll that we, the taxpayers, provide for them, and their ever-extending menagerie of freeloaders, many of which you'll never heard of. I mean, you talk about a couple of them, like Princess Alexandra, Lady Gabriella, all get this protection and police escorts to the Chelsea Flower Show. I mean, who are these people, and why would anyone want to kidnap them?
Well, who are they indeed? And if you look at the front cover of my bookmark, you'll see there's 44 people on the balcony. Who are they all, and what are they all doing, and why are we paying for them all? You look at other royal families in Europe; they don't have this number. They have the king or the queen. They have the next in line, then their children. That's it. Everybody else goes out and gets a decent job and behave like normal people. Our royal family is the only imperial royal family left. You used to have imperial royal families with the Russian Tsar, with the emperor in Germany, the emperor in Austria. Obviously the autocratic king in France. These people have all gone, and the monarchies which are left, which tend to be in Scandinavian countries or the Benelux countries, they are all completely different. They cost far, far less. They're ingrained in the democratic system. When they come to the throne, they take an oath of allegiance to uphold democracy. In this country, we have to take an oath of allegiance to uphold them. It's the wrong way around. So, they are an 18th century monarchy, the only one left, and it's completely inappropriate for Britain in the 21st century, and it holds us back. As regarding the Chelsea Flower Show and so on, well, I mean, these are minor royals. To refer to the Queen and Prince Philip when he was alive, they used to drive around reasonably incognito. Prince Philip ran around London in his taxi. But the more minor the royal is, the more they want to be ostentatious and stand and say, "Look at me, I'm important." And the picture captured in the Chelsea Flower Show, which caused a furore, was the traffic being held up in central London in order to get some minor laws no one's ever heard of, with a massive police escort to Chelsea Flower Show. Why don't you just get on the bus or the tube like everybody else?
Tell us about Narissa and Catherine Bowes-Lyon. You mentioned.
Well, this goes back to, this is again a throwback to the 18th century, when people who were not regarded as desirable in the royal family were kind of shoved away somewhere out of the way where people couldn't see them, in order to, presumably, to present an image which suggested everything was perfect in the royal family. And you had, in fact, George V, who's one of his sons. His son was epileptic. Well, he was, as soon as he had an epileptic fit, he was taken out of public view, locked up in a cottage somewhere with a keeper, and he never saw his parents again. I mean, this is outrageous behaviour, and he died without ever seeing his parents again. And the people you refer to, of course, what we had were the Queen Mum, as she was, had these relations, who were disappeared, a bit like a South American style, isn't it? Disappeared in about 1940. They were officially classed as dead. That's how they were related. Was it Debrett's or Burke's peerage? I can't remember which one it was. Which turned out to be entirely false. And I think it was the Daily Mirror of the Sun turned up these sisters in this grotesque kind of absolutely no support. No money had come from the royal family. The Queen Mum, they had mental health issues. The Queen Mum said, oh, she didn't know she was there. So presumably, when they disappeared in 1940, she never thought to ask where they'd gone, or for 43 years or thereabouts, till it suddenly appeared on the front page of the tabloids. And of course, it turned out the royal family given them no support, no money, or anything else. The Queen Mother, of course, ironically, was a patron of MenCap, but seemed to pay no attention to mental health issues within their own family. But even if you take it as gospel that they didn't know they were there, which is very difficult to believe, the papers told them. So you would think, wouldn't you, that at that point, the patron of MenCap and others in the royal family would say, this is disgraceful, these bad people in our family be treated in this way, we must have them looked after. What happened? Nothing. They were left there. The only difference made was that the royal family, I think, paid for some night dresses for them. That was it. And when they died, they were buried at public expense in a cemetery paid for by the local council taxpayers.
When the Queen dies and Charles is still alive, would it be the responsible thing to defer to his son?
Well, it's certainly the case, according to opinion polls, that William would be more popular on the throne than Charles. Charles is seen as slightly weird, and he's been around a long time. And actually, whether you want someone who's a septuagenarian inheriting the royal family's throne is a moot point. However, if you start skipping generations or pulling other people out of the royal family, then you undermine the entire principle of hereditary. I mean, the whole basis of the royal family is this hereditary principle that the most suitable person automatically achieves the throne, as if by action by God. When Queen Elizabeth II came to the throne in 1952, a quarter of the population thought that she'd been put there by God personally. That no doubt that'd be a lesser figure now, but that was what people saw, and they still have this mindset. So once you undermine the hereditary principle that the next in line comes to the throne, then you undermine the whole purpose of monarchy. So they won't want to do that. They'll want Charles on the throne.
I mean, how out of touch is the heir to the throne? I mean, there's that story of I think it was 2007. This eco-warrior Prince Charles had a private jet fly a pair of his shoes from England to Kuwait for his wife. I think it was a private jets conference, or it might not have been, but yeah. That was the other one that he flew down to Cornwall in a private jet for a climate change conference. But yeah, he flew a pair of his wife's shoes on a private jet from England to Kuwait. I mean, how out of touch is this guy?
Well, I mean, that's not an isolated incident. I think it was Canada actually, but anyway, it didn't really matter. There was certainly a flight which was carrying just something. It was, I think it was was it a pair of wife's shoes? Was it actually? It was an innocuous object. It didn't really matter very much, whatever it was, and he had it flown by. I think it was in Canada by the Royal Mounties. But I mean, Prince Charles has got a blind spot. I mean, he lectures people about climate change. I think he genuinely believes climate change is an issue. He actually took it up, to be fair to him, with Donald Trump when he was over here, although that was probably a fruitless exercise, I imagine, in that particular case. So he does believe that we need to take action, but he doesn't seem to think it applies to himself. This is why I find it quite extraordinary. He seems to think he's exempt from it. He encouraged everybody on his estate, for example, a while back, to cycle to work, which was very nice, except he wasn't going to cycle to work himself. He was going to carry on using his Aston Martin or whatever he's got. So he's inconsistent. This business of private jets, when the official line, when he's put under pressure, is from St James's Palace, is that Prince Charles will use public transport where appropriate, in inverted commas. Well, when was the last time it was appropriate? When was the last time anybody saw Prince Charles on a train or a bus, or even, frankly, on a normal commercial flight? He uses private jet all the time, and he's not alone. Just last week, as we talk, Prince Harry flew from California to New York, back by a private jet. Well, I don't know if you've noticed, but there are quite a lot of flights go from California to New York, which operate on a kind of, I imagine, on a kind of hourly basis. But so why did he need to take a private jet? The fact is that these people who complain about climate change and lecture the rest of us, they are going to be in the top 1% of polluters in the world, probably even the top 0.5%. Prince Charles went on a tour of Europe to lecture people about climate change. He went by a private jet to difficult capitals to reach, obviously, like Berlin and Rome. Of course, you have to go by private jet to Berlin and Rome, don't you? There's no other way of getting there. So his emissions for that particular tour were 52.95 tons of carbon to go and lecture people in Europe about climate change. That figure of 52.95 tons is 5 times the average annual emissions from a person in the UK, just on that one journey. He is a massive polluter.
Yeah, on the subject of Meghan and Harry, we're both here in Sussex, the beautiful county of Sussex. Are they a good representation of our county?
Well, I think it's extremely arrogant to that the Queen or someone decides that they should be the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. I mean, who asked them to be in Sussex if they wanted them? I almost the point. What connection do they have with Sussex? I don't think there's any connection at all. It's just it comes up with the you know, almost randomly that this is the title that's vacant, so we give it to them. You know, that's what people used to do centuries ago. You know, King Henry VIII made someone Duke of somewhere other they never heard of. You know, I don't think you should be imposing people on the county. I have nothing against Harry and Meghan particularly, but I mean, they didn't have a connection with Sussex beforehand, so why have we been made, you know, their subjects almost? It's not just Harry and Meghan, this stuff happens all the time. The Duke of Cambridge, I mean, what you have to do with Cambridge before he was made Duke of Cambridge? Edward's been made, I think it's Earl of Forfar in Scotland. Has he ever been to Forfar? Actually, they invited him to go up there and do something, and he said he couldn't do it. I don't think he's ever been to his place. You know, this goes back to the days of, go back 200 years, and MPs were MPs for constituencies and never ever visited. That's all gone, rightly, because MPs have to be tied to their constituency, but it's still the way the royal family behaves.
Moving on to, I just want to cover politics briefly with you. You were a Liberal Democrat MP. You know, what happened to the Liberal Democrats, and do you still consider yourself as one?
I am a Liberal Democrat, and I'm certainly a Liberal, because I think Liberal is a flame that cannot be liberty, who want freedom of expression, who want to be what they are without the state controlling them, interfering with them. That balance of power between the state and the individual is a classic thing for Liberals, and it's going back to John Stuart Mill and everybody else in the age happening. And what happened to the Lib Dems? Well, the Lib Dems went into coalition, as you know. They did every member's the things we got wrong. We got tuition fees wrong, badly wrong, but we got a lot of things right, and we got no credit for that at all. I mean, a lot of things happened in government at the time, whether it was reducing income tax, whether it's triple lock pension, it's a massive investment in railways, which I helped bring about in my role as Transport Minister, whether it was effectively moving the goalposts so we could have medicinal cannabis prescribed. You know, a whole range of stuff we did. You know, free school meals for children. We got none of the credit for. That was all our stuff, not the Tories. So, but there we are. That's life. We didn't have a very good PR machine, I think, probably to done, and the government was stable. And I would just say to people who didn't like us going to the government with the Tories, which I didn't particularly want either in a way, is look at what's happened since and compare the stability and forward-looking coalition, if you like, with the disgrace that we've now got in government now, with the Tories on their own, the corruption that we've now got. We've got corruption in government now for the first time, really, on a big scale.
Tell us about your radio show, where people can hear that. And I want to know, what is your favorite album of all time, and why? And what is the first concert you ever went to?
Oh, I can tell you the first record I bought, the first LP I bought it when I was 12, the week it came out, which was Abbey Road by the Beatles. Oh, wow. So that's followed by Beach Boys, Pet Sounds, and the Who direct hits. So I think I had immaculate taste for a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
The first single, which is perhaps less impressive, was "Ruby Don't Take Your Love to Town" by Kenny Rogers, the first edition.
Okay.
However, which I've still got. I've still got all these originals at home. So the first concert I went to, what was that? I've got a feeling it was Greenslade, which is a kind of terrible prog rock outfit with Dave Greenslade, who played endless solos on his organ. He was always playing with his organ, throwing back his hair and kind of giving us 20-minute solos. That's how I remember it. So it was a pretty dreadful concert. But I also saw, I think, Wakeman at the time, which was interesting. Donovan in concert. So yeah, I mean, and obviously I went to quite a lot of stuff when I was in the music business myself. I was in the music business between 78 and 83. Had some great concerts there. Whether it's in the pubs when I saw, punk bands in pubs, or whether it was the best concert in many ways was the Police at Milton Keynes Bowl, because I got a ticket from A&M, and I was actually 2 people between me and the stage. I was right in the front, and I hadn't particularly rated the Police before, but good God, what a fantastic 3-piece band they were live, and I was blown off. They were blowing off the stage. And the other person I really like is Georgie Fame, who's got better and better over the years and is still going, I think. So yeah, now my radio shows, I got 3 radio shows. Thank you for asking, Mark. 3 on Sea Haven FM. There we go, Sea Haven FM. 96.3, which you can get if you're local to Lewes or Seaford or New Haven or Peacehaven, or you can get it online. And I do 3 shows. I do a live show on Sunday, straight 70 stuff. I then do immediately afterwards at 8 o'clock in the evening, Ain't Nothing But the Blues, because that's my preferred genre, an hour of blues music. And on a Monday evening, I do a show called Hidden 60s, when I play you all sorts of stuff from the 1960s that you don't know, because it's on B-sides and EP tracks, and that's in my life before politics to my life after politics. It's been a great addition to. It's made black and white world colour. How's that?
Do we have time to quickly talk about Tibet?
Yeah, sure. I've got 5 minutes.
You're very, very passionate about Tibet and the Tibet Society. I grew up in the 90s. I was a fan of the Beastie Boys, so that is how I found out about Tibet and everything. Tell us about the Tibet Society, and that something that similarly was happening in Tibet is now happening with Taiwan, isn't it?
And Xinjiang. I mean, Tibet Society was formed immediately after the Chinese invasion, 1959. Tibet has been an independent country. It had its own currency, its own foreign affairs, every mark of an independent country. We, the British, signed treaties with Tibet, which China was not part of. This is being Chinese. This is absolute rubbish. The Chinese want to reinvent history. Tibet was independent. We knew it. We were there as British people. So when China was invaded, naturally, perhaps the first pro-Tibet organization in the world was set up in the UK, namely the Tibet Society. And it was set up partly with the help of my good friend Ricky Hyde Chambers, who is still involved in it today. And he ought to be recognized for his tremendous work on that over many, many years. 60 years he's been campaigning for Tibet. It brought in many people. David Bowie was a supporter of Tibet Society very early on in the 1960s. So it's been going for a very long time. It's now merged with Free Tibet, so the 2 organizations are one. But you know, the need for these organizations and anybody campaigning against the Chinese government is increased rather than decreased. What the Chinese government has been doing has been carrying out genocide. And I don't use the word lightly, I use it accurately, according to the UN definition, genocide in Tibet and genocide in Xinjiang, where the Muslim population is, and in what they call East Turkestan. And what that means is that the Chinese government has a view that anything which isn't Han Chinese has to be eradicated. You can be imprisoned for phoning somebody abroad who's a relative, or you can be imprisoned and tortured for having a photograph of Dalai Lama in your house. You can be imprisoned for trying to speak Tibetan in Tibet. This is where we got to. The Chinese government is the most appalling government in the world by some distance. And the only reason it's got away with it is because it's very powerful. But I mean, they are a big cancer in the world. I'm not talking about the Chinese people, I'm talking about the Chinese government. The Chinese people, of course, have had a whole basket of lies non-stop by their regime. And when they come over here as students, they are monitored closely to make sure they're not engaging with people they shouldn't be engaging in. And the Chinese government's reach is enormous. They reach people who've escaped from them in this country, Tibetans or Muslims, for example, from the community. What we want, we're going to torture your family back home. They are a most appalling regime, and the West come together and oppose what China's doing to its own people, with its own population, and also those whom it has invaded, such as occupy Tibet.
Okay, let's leave there, Norman, for now, because I know you're busy man. And please, everyone, go out and get the paperback, not this one, paperback version of And What Do You Do? And What Do You Do? And it's by Norman Baker.
They get the paperback because get the paperback because they keep providing me more information and more material for my book. So it's been updated to take account of Harry and Meghan's activities and Charles' shenanigans and Andrew's shenanigans, of course.
Now I'm gonna have to get the paperback because I've already read the hardback. Oh, damn it! Oh, what a shame. Oh, anyway, Norman, thank you very much. Buy the book, listen to his radio show, and thank you, my friend, for coming on and for writing this. It literally is, genuinely my favorite book of the last, as far as the last 5-6 years or something. It is just brilliant. So please go and buy that. And thank you, Norman, for coming on. And see you again down the line, my friend.
Yes. All right. All the best. Bye bye.
Mate. How do we end this?